Hey everyone, I'm Arvin. I'm a software engineer at Trackunit, and I don't have a lot of slides, so it'll be short. I will be talking about Cursor AI. At Trackunit, we have been embracing AI quite a lot. We try to adapt, or at least try out all the new technologies that come out, see how we can use it, if we can use it internally for development, or how we can make products out of it for our customers. We even have teams now making dedicated products using AI for our customers. And over the past few months, we have been trying to use this new IDE called Cursor AI. Maybe some of you have used it. Oh, yeah, some of you. We have been using that, and I will be sharing some of my experience using the tool, what I learned, what's good about it, etc. And also, recently we had a company town hall event where our CTO basically said something along the lines of, if you're a developer and you're not using an AI tool, then shame on you. So we have all been trying to hop onto this AI train. For those of you who don't know, Cursor AI, it's a fork of VS Code, which is one of the most popular IDEs out there. And since it's a fork, it gives you the advantage that you can use all the existing extensions or plugins that you may be using in VS in Cursor, and it just works, which makes the transition quite fast. And of course, the layout and the basic experience stays the same. So I'll just start by showing my Cursor, if I can. So this is Cursor. I have made an NX monorepo because we use NX monorepo, at least for most of our front end, to handle all the projects and apps. The main advantage that Cursor offers is that it knows much more about the repo you're working in. If you go to settings, under features, you can index your whole code base. The moment you open a repo in Cursor, it indexes the whole repo, which means any AI action that you perform will be much more accurate because it knows much more about the repo. And this is on by default, unless you're working on a really large repo, then you have to go in here and turn it on because it affects the performance of it. But this is one of the main advantages it has over VS Code right now. It only knows the context of the file you mentioned or the file that you have open in tabs. VS Code has new features, or some of these things that Cursor has as a preview. They'll be coming out soon, but as of now, this is mostly in Cursor and few other IDs. And now going back. Yes, another thing, when you create or when you have a repo in Cursor, you can create Cursor rules. It's basically you telling how the AI, the LLM, should work with this repo. You can see here we have a file generated by Cursor because I told it that it's a JavaScript NX React monorepo. And then it has a bunch of best practices, how it should handle state, UI, and then when you ask for help, it'll try to follow these rules. And it used to be a single file before named Cursor rules, but now they have updated it so that you can create different files with different set of rules for different file types. So if you are working on a React file, you can have specific rules. That's a recent addition, a really nice improvement. Once you get into the code editor, all of the code was written by Claude. If you have used Copilot in VS Code, you know that it has auto-completion. As soon as you start typing something, you can hit tab and then it completes it for you. In Cursor, they call it next edit because it can go beyond just auto-completing your next line. So here it says hello calling. If I change it, it knows I'm trying to change it into a variable. I hit tab and you can see up here, it knows that I'm trying to do more with this file. It knows I probably have to go up here. This component has to accept a parameter, a prop, and it saves. So it knows what your next edit might be and tries to edit it. It can jump through the whole file and edit the file. That's again a feature that you can't find in VS Code. It can also do edits across files. If I open the sidebar, this is the equivalent of the Copilot chat that you have here. You can ask it questions. You can ask it things about this file or about the whole repo. It tells you things. If you hit the rate, you can give it more context by adding more files or even remote documentation. I can probably hit docs and say, go look up the React docs when you create some components. Or it can look through the Git history. Oop, I have to give it permission, but you can basically say, go look through these diffs and see what I did wrong in this diff and try to fix that. So that's also a really nice use case. And yeah, it can look for linter errors. So basically it looks through a project JSON, see if you have linting checks, runs it, and can perform actions based on that. So let me try to run this app. If I can find the code to serve the thing, I believe it's this. Again, I haven't checked what the AI has generated. Okay, so this is the boilerplate React component when you use the NX generator for a React component. Just to show that it can work across files, I'll try to use this hello world component in the React app that shows the NX boilerplate currently. Please fix everything. And I'm crossing my fingers and hope it fixes it. And you can see that there's this drop down here, which lets you choose. Now it's working, so I can show you. You have 3 modes to work with there. It's agent, chat, or ask. At agent mode, you're basically allowing cursor to perform actions on your behalf. When it's on ask, it'll simply answer you, just like on ChatGPT. And this time I choose agent because I wanted to just go ahead and do things. You can see that it detected errors. And the cool thing is it knows that it detected error, then it tries to fix it. And it basically brute forces keep trying fixes until it managed to fix it. It's really useful in my work where we have a really huge monorepo with 400 plus libraries and 20 different apps. You create something or make a new library, or let's say you edit a library, then it can be hard to find out where it's being referenced, where do you have to go to change things, or what checks or tests it crashed. It can just work through all of it, fix it. And here you can see it wanted to run a command and it stopped and it asked for my permission. And Cursor actually has a setting called YOLO mode. You have to go in and enable it. It gives the agent control to perform actions and not wait for you to hit enter. Exactly, which is super cool. Yeah, it found out that apparently a base URL was missing in the TS config. And of course, you can set up, for example, pre-commit rules. You can say before any commit is made, if run all the test linting checks for the project that you just modified before you push the commit. The agent makes sure it passes all the checks that exist in the project before it confirms that the feature actually works. This is less pretty than I thought because I believe, yeah, there was a lot of Tailwind classes in here, but for some reason it didn't show up. I'll keep asking. I'll just stop the current run. I hope it'll fix it. It's quite convenient and reduces the amount of brain power you have to use when you can just outsource a lot of work to the agent. I think it found out that the Tailwind configuration was not set up correctly for that library. It looks through the directory, sees the project, and it does things. It's creating a base styles file. You can, of course, go through each file, change it, and accept it individually. Review next file, accept, or at the end of each prompt, let's see. I hope it looks better. It can't connect. Oh, is it not served? I really want the agent to do it. They actually have, so in this monorepo, because I didn't want to make this presentation either, I created a cursor presentation, asked it to use this library called slide dev, which creates presentations out of Markdown, and it exists somewhere. But I decided, okay, maybe I have to do 1% of the presentation today, and decided to make this file here that you see. That seems to be the case. And now it's a blank page. Perfect. This is why you shouldn't do live demos. Yes. Okay, so that's some of the stuff that Cursor can do. And now I'll go back. What did I want to talk about? Yes, user agent mode, user YOLO mode. And now I'll talk a bit about MCPs. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. This is a new protocol that was introduced by Anthropic, the guys who made Claude. And it's their attempt to make a standardized protocol to interface with LLMs. And they want to standardize how people interface with LLMs and created this protocol. Cursor supports this MCP servers out of the box, which means you can have MCP servers that does job to you. So this is an example for the tool that Casper was talking about before. LLM as it is running in an isolated environment. It has a fixed amount of data, but oftentimes you want it to work with or call some API, fetch some data, and then based on that perform actions. Then agents can be much more powerful. This MCP allows Cursor to interface with any third-party services and work based on that data. So as some fun examples, I have few MCP servers set up, but Claude actually has, I believe it's called Claude Directory, where you can see, yeah, there are thousands of servers that does a lot of things, but I have just installed a few fun ones. For example, there's an NX MCP. So this one, if you're working in a monorepo and if you have the NX console extension, then once you open the repo in Cursor, it just asks you, hey, I see that you're working in an NX repo. Do you want to install this NX MCP so that the LLM can better understand the monorepo you're working in? I have already installed it. A pop-up appears. You just have to say yes. Let me try to enable it. It says green, which means the LLM now knows about the NX monorepo that it's working with. If I open a chat and ask Claude or the chat, hey, show me the libraries that exist in the monorepo and their relationship graph. I'm hoping it works. You can see that it called the MCP tool because it has a list of all the tools at its disposal and it knows that I'm trying to do something with NX. Then it called the NX MCP tool to show this relationship graph. This is super useful when you're working in a really large monorepo when the LLM has access to the NX graph. The Trackunit, we have, like I said, 400 plus libraries, and we have complex set of permissions and scopes because we want to limit what different apps can access, what they are able to work with. In tests, for example, we have some providers that should be used internally and some that should not be used. So with these tools, the LLM can figure that out. So that's super powerful. I have a few more MCP servers set up. If I go back to Cursor settings, MCP, I have an Atlassian one. I'll come back to that. There's one called Browser Tools. This is also super cool because it allows the agent to get the data from the browser, which is serving the apps. And that's super useful when you're debugging the apps. So here I have something called debug tools, which works only with Chrome, but at least it works. And if I go back to Cursor, let's actually see if it can see what's in the DOM. This hello world file, which looks way different. But I'm just gonna put some things in the console. I'll see if this agent is able to see that or get that data from the console. It ran the presentation I talked about before, but there's some secret stuff in the console. Okay, it figured out that multiple applications were running. Now it runs the right app, but of course it's still stuck because it's serving. So I'll just say stop and I'll run the app here. This is the demo app. Now you can see it called the MCP tool to get the data from the console. and now it couldn't see things apparently. What did it say? All right, it's going back to the other file, but believe me, it used to work a few hours before. But it's really powerful when you are debugging things. It's really possible that you might have missed a bunch of errors that appear at runtime in the console, and can also access the network tab and can see what happened wrong based from the response. Yeah, that's another cool MCP tool. So today at the office, I heard we were using Star Wars to demo things because we have a Trackunit and we demo things. I went into Figma, made a black box, typed the text, and this is all I made. So it's an MCP server for Figma, which means the agent can know what's in the Figma file and based on that, create components. And that's what I did, and it did a job. I'll just show you the final result. I was so impressed that it did this, but this is the final app it made. Yeah, it did a pretty good job at replicating the UI that was made in a minute. I think it's a really good start that I can work with. It's really amazing stuff. It made it as a new app, and then it's in the app. Okay, it didn't make any components, but it basically did this. Then of course you can go from here, ask it to write tests, and you have MCP tools to interface with database. So you can of course ask it to, hey, just push to the database that's running, which means you don't have to do any migration. The LLM can do it for you. If I'm talking about MCPs, I found a Jira MCP tool. Once you assign the task, you just give it the task number. From there, the LLM can see what the task is about, assign yourself, or me in this case, to the task, move it in progress, give an update, actually do the thing, make the changes, commit, push to GitHub. It can do quite a lot. So it's really nice. The only downside of this MCP, as far as I know, is that in this case, I'm running it locally. So the MCP server is running on this machine, which means every time I want to use the NX MCP, it needs to run. But I tried to move it to a remote server. So that would be nice so that I don't have to serve it every time. That's when it gets tricky because MCP is stateful and it requires it to be stateful, which means you cannot really, it's not restful. You cannot just request things and get a response. It would have been super convenient if you could create a serverless component where it has this MCP. Every time your LLM needs extra information, it calls a serverless function that returns the information. Then the LLM can work with it. But that's not the case. You need a running server which hosts this MCP. And it's apparently by design. Anthropic says that it's because they want to support a feature called sampling or signaling, I believe. If signaling, no, sampling, it is called sampling. Sampling is a powerful MCP feature that allows servers to request LLM completions, enabling sophisticated agent behaviors. Okay, they're really vague, but what they're trying to say is, in this case, I'll give an example. LLM wants to request some data from a MCP server. And then it gives information, but there's no way for the server to know whether the LLM has performed the action successfully. And they wanted some way for the LLM to communicate back to the server that, hey, I actually did this. So they wanted to enable two-way communication, which is why they built this thing called sampling. But funnily enough, I looked at all the existing clients that use MCP, and you can see if you go to sampling, none of them actually use it. It's a limitation and also poses a security issue because when you create this MCP, it makes sense that the agent wants to communicate with the server to get information, but it doesn't make sense that the LLM communicates back to the server. It also poses a security threat because you can imagine the LLM that's running locally could have access to secrets or passwords. And then one of the third-party MCP servers that someone made, they could easily ask the LLM to give us information, but of course actually steal sensitive information. I don't think they've addressed it yet, but I saw some discussion threads about them possibly limiting MCPs to just support one-way communication, because this sampling clearly didn't go as planned because no one's actually using it. I think that's all I had to say.